Deep inside every living cell on Earth, there is a molecule of incredible complexity. It is called deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA. This molecule contains the instructions, the blueprint, for building a living organism. Think of it as a vast digital library, written in a four-letter chemical alphabet: A, C, G, and T. These letters are arranged in a specific sequence, forming genes that tell the cell what to do, when to do it, and how to build everything from a simple bacterium to the intricate neural networks of the human brain. The sheer amount of information packed into this microscopic strand is honestly just staggering. If you were to print out the genetic code from a single human cell, you would fill thousands of books. This isn't just a random string of chemicals. The information within DNA is what we call complex specified information. It is complex because the sequence is long and non-repetitive, like a meaningful sentence rather than just repeating the same letter over and over. It is specified because the sequence performs a particular function. It codes for proteins that build and operate the cell. This is the very essence of information. A random jumble of letters is just noise, but a specific arrangement of letters can convey a powerful message. The DNA in your cells is not noise. It is a detailed functional instruction manual for life itself, passed down through generations. The discovery of this intricate system in the 20th century opened up a new chapter in our quest to understand life's origins. Before we understood genetics, life's complexity was a marvel, but DNA revealed the mechanism behind that marvel. It showed us that at its core, biology operates on information. This raises a profound question: where did this information come from? How did a language for life emerge from a lifeless planet? The answer to this question lies at the heart of one of the most compelling scientific and philosophical debates of our time, forcing us to look at the very fabric of existence and ask what it means to be alive. The elegance of the DNA molecule is not just in the information it stores, but also in its structure. The famous double helix is a masterpiece of molecular engineering. It allows the code to be copied with incredible fidelity, ensuring that the instructions are passed on accurately when cells divide. This process of replication is itself a marvel of nanomachinery, with specialized proteins acting like tiny robots that unzip, read, and duplicate the code. The stability and efficiency of this system are what make life as we know it possible. The entire process works like a sophisticated computer program, executing commands with precision. This parallel has led some thinkers to see more than just chemistry at play. This brings us to a powerful and honestly pretty controversial idea: intelligent design, or ID. Proponents of this theory, such as philosopher of science Stephen Meyer in his book The Signature in the Cell, argue that the information in DNA is a clear sign of an intelligent cause. Their argument is straightforward. In our experience, complex specified information, whether it's a book, a computer program, or even a hieroglyphic message, always comes from a mind. We never see language or code arise from random, undirected processes. Since DNA is fundamentally a sophisticated code, they conclude that it too must have originated from an intelligent source, a designer. The argument extends beyond DNA to other features of the biological world. ID proponents point to systems they describe as irreducibly complex. Imagine a classic mousetrap. It has several parts: a platform, a spring, a hammer, a holding bar, and a catch. If you remove any one of these parts, the mousetrap doesn't just work less well, it doesn't work at all. It is irreducibly complex. Advocates for ID argue that many biological systems, like the bacterial flagellum, a whip-like tail that bacteria use to swim, or the intricate cascade of proteins that causes blood to clot, are just like that mousetrap. They seem too complex and interdependent to have been built up one small step at a time through evolution. This perspective directly challenges the core tenets of Darwinian evolution. The Darwinian mechanism of random mutation and natural selection is seen by ID proponents as insufficient to generate the vast amounts of new information needed to build these complex systems from scratch. They argue that while natural selection is good at optimizing existing systems, it is not a creative force capable of inventing entirely new biological blueprints. The sudden appearance of many complex animal forms in the fossil record, an event known as the Cambrian explosion, is often cited as evidence. For them, this burst of biological innovation looks less like a slow, gradual process and more like a pre-programmed infusion of information. So, who is this intelligent designer? It is important to note that the theory of intelligent design itself does not identify the designer. From a purely scientific standpoint, its proponents argue, one can only infer that an intelligent cause was at work. They contend that whether this designer is God, a cosmic intelligence, or something else is a separate question, one that belongs to the realms of religion and philosophy, not science. This distinction is crucial for them, as they present ID not as a religious belief, but as a scientific inference based on the available evidence. Their focus remains on the data, arguing that the patterns we see in nature point compellingly toward design. The mainstream scientific community, however, overwhelmingly defends the explanatory power of Darwinian evolution. Scientists argue that the claims of intelligent design are not supported by evidence, and that its core concepts, like irreducible complexity, have been successfully challenged. For example, evolutionary biologists have proposed plausible, step-by-step pathways for the evolution of systems like the bacterial flagellum and the blood-clotting cascade. They suggest that the parts of these irreducibly complex machines could have had other useful functions on their own before being co-opted and assembled into the more complex system we see today, a process known as exaptation. In response to the challenge of the Cambrian explosion, many paleontologists and biologists point to a long, slow fuse of evolution that preceded it. Fossil discoveries, especially from the Ediacaran period, show that simpler, soft-bodied organisms existed for tens of millions of years before the so-called explosion. They argue that the Cambrian event was not an instantaneous creation, but a rapid diversification made possible by a combination of environmental changes, such as rising oxygen levels, and the evolution of key genetic toolkits that allowed for more complex body plans. The fossil record is incomplete, they remind us, and the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The central defense of evolution is that natural selection is not a random process. The mutations that generate new traits are random, but the selection of those traits is the opposite of random. It is a powerful, non-random process that filters traits based on their survival and reproductive advantage. Over vast stretches of cosmic time, this filtering mechanism can build incredible complexity, step by tiny step, without the need for a guiding intelligence. Scientists point to overwhelming evidence from genetics, comparative anatomy, and the fossil record, such as the clear transitional fossils showing the evolution of whales from land mammals, as proof of this gradual process. Ultimately, the strongest criticism from the scientific community is that intelligent design is not a testable scientific theory. A key principle of science is falsifiability, the idea that a hypothesis must make predictions that can be proven wrong. Critics argue that ID fails this test. Attributing complexity to an unknown designer doesn't generate new predictions or open up new avenues for research. Instead, it is seen as an argument from ignorance. We don't know how this evolved, therefore it must have been designed. Science, they insist, should seek natural explanations for natural phenomena, pushing the boundaries of our knowledge rather than stopping at the door of a mysterious designer. The debate over intelligent design is not confined to scientific journals and laboratories, it resonates deeply within the public sphere. For many people, the idea of a designer aligns with their personal or religious beliefs. Polling often shows that a significant portion of the public, particularly in places like the United States where religious faith remains prominent, is open to the idea that life was guided by a higher power. This creates a cultural divide between the consensus view of the scientific community and the beliefs held by a large segment of the population. The conversation becomes not just about evidence, but about worldviews, philosophy, and what it means to be human. This tension highlights a fundamental difference in how science and some belief systems approach questions of origin. Science seeks mechanistic explanations, the how, based on observable, repeatable, and falsifiable evidence. It builds its understanding piece by piece, acknowledging that there are still unsolved puzzles, such as the precise origin of the first self-replicating molecule. In contrast, intelligent design, while using the language of science, ultimately points toward a cause that may lie outside the natural world, addressing the who or why question. This is a philosophical leap that most scientists are unwilling to take within the framework of scientific inquiry. Interestingly, the lines are not always so starkly drawn. In recent years, some prominent thinkers, including evolutionary biologists like Bret Weinstein, have suggested that the scientific community should engage more directly with the challenges posed by ID. Weinstein has argued that while he is confident in evolution, Proponents of ID are at biology's cutting edge by identifying genuine weaknesses and unanswered questions in current theory. He believes that dismissing their arguments out of hand, perhaps due to their presumed motivations, is a disservice to the scientific process, which should thrive on skepticism and rigorous debate from all corners. So, where does that leave us? Standing at the crossroads of a grand cosmic mystery. Is the intricate, information-rich reality of life the product of unguided natural forces playing out over eons? Or is it the handiwork of an intelligence, a signature left in the cell for us to discover? The evidence is complex, the arguments are passionate, and the stakes are nothing less than our understanding of our own existence. As we continue to explore the universe and decode the secrets of life, we must all weigh the evidence for ourselves. The quest for knowledge requires an open mind, a respect for the data, and the courage to ask the biggest questions of all.